Thank you, Sean. I want to mention uh, the competition meeting this month is November 25th. That's the day before Thanksgiving. The theme is fall colors. The judge will be Wendy Gadak. She presented a program a few months ago on fall colors, so she'll be judging this month's competition. And as we're always doing, if you don't have an image of fall colors that you really want to present, you can present any image. You will not be disqualified or be dinged on the scoring if it's not fall colors. At the December 11th meeting, well, November is the last competition for the year. Then at the December 11th meeting, that's a Friday, we'll have, that's the only meeting in December. We're going to have the election of officers. We'll give out the awards and the promotions for people who are being promoted from like 5, 6 to 8 or 8, 11 or 11 to 16. And if we have any amendments to our rules, we'll vote on them at that meeting. And so I think that's pretty much it. I'll mention the officers we have lined up so far. Oz has agreed to continue his punishment. He'll be the president again. Gwen Patton has agreed to be vice president. Bill Williams has also agreed to continue his punishment, so he'll be secretary. And Ron has agreed to continue his punishment. He'll be treasurer again. We have on our committees, we have competition committee. Butch Mazuka has taken that over. He'll be assisted by Cliff Stockdill. The program will be Sean, and I think Dave helped assist you perhaps. The membership committee, I'm going to be doing that. And Oz has agreed to do the special projects. And Carl will be for the newsletter and the website. That's what we have for right now anyway. So that's all I have.
Okay, thanks, Larry. Before we move on to introducing Erik, we have a guest tonight, Marianne. Is it Weingroff or Weingroff?
Weingroff.
Weingroff, okay. I tried to Germanize it, sorry. So we'd like to give you a chance to, say hello to, we've got quite a good turnout tonight. Introduce yourself, how you found us, kind of what your interests are in terms of photography. And, again, we thank you for joining us tonight.
Okay, well, thank you. I don't know how I found you. I guess I was just looking for local camera clubs. I live in Boulder, or outside of Boulder, and I'm part of the Flatirons Photo Club in Boulder. And it's been just a super learning experience for me. And I feel like I've really grown as a photographer from that. And with COVID, it's easy to join other groups and see different photographers and learn more. Excuse me. I have two things that I really like to shoot. One is flowers, and I go to the botanical gardens a lot all summer, and then I also like travel photography a lot. I used to travel overseas a lot for my job, and then I've been retired for 3 years, and I've taken 2 trips in that time, and would have taken more had it not been for COVID. So anyway, that's it.
Oh, cool. Well, thanks for dropping in. And, as you heard Larry say, on the 25th, we'll be having a competition meeting. If you'd like to drop in again, if you're not a member, you can submit an image for critique only, scoring. And otherwise, we each of us, who are members, can submit images. What did we settle on this year? I forgot. Is it 3 now? Digitally.
We're limiting to 2 right now.
Okay. Yeah, and then we'll each get judged on our images by a different judge each month. So yeah,
great. Thank you.
Cool. Well, thanks again. So yeah, tonight we have Erik Holladay-McCann. For those of you who hadn't joined on early, Erik just very recently moved back to Michigan. So this whole COVID thing was fortuitous, because we signed you up to be a presenter a long time ago, and we had to figure something out, in terms of flying you back to Colorado or something. Erik is going to discuss tonight HDR and luminosity masking within, I think, both Lightroom and Photoshop. Erik has his own studio back in Grand Rapids. Looking at his background, looks like he started as a photojournalist at the age of 14. That sounds kind of interesting in itself. But now he likes to combine his passion for storytelling and documentary style photography with his creative aesthetic derived from a bold cinematic standpoint in his photographs. And he's again tonight going to be working on luminosity masks as a key to create more dynamic photos. Obviously, if you're keeping up on Lightroom and Photoshop, there's been a lot of changes this year. So, he's going to try and touch, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, but touch on a lot of these changes that have come about in the last couple of years with these techniques. With that, I'll stop babbling, allow you to take control, Erik, and launch into the program. If everyone would please mute yourself. If you have questions that come up, type them into the chat window. And then at the end, we can go through a Q&A. But, if you couldn't be so kind as to mute yourself so we don't have background noise during the program. Thank you.
Thank you. Welcome, everybody. I'm going to go a little fast. So please type in your questions so we have them at the end, because this technique has changed quite a bit, especially since I first kind of signed up to do this. Gosh, I'm thinking it was almost a year and a half ago. And with all the upgrades and everything like that, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of start in Photoshop, because that's where it originally kind of came from, luminosity masking, and then flip into Lightroom and show you what is now become kind of it's not quite as controlling, and as photographers we all love a lot of control, but it's quicker, and it has its own applications for certain things, especially with the way we shoot nowadays, trying to capture as much detail in the highlights, and sometimes have darker backgrounds and then pull them out later in the shadows. So there's certain ways that you can do that now in Lightroom with luminance masking. So I'm just going to get right off to it, and let me share my screen here. I think I'm just going to share the screen because I'm going to be flipping back and forth. So here we go. All right. So usually I start out in Lightroom. I'm a Lightroom guy. I love Lightroom. I started out in Photoshop. I actually used to use Photoshop when it didn't have a number. When Photoshop 3 came out and layers came out, that was like, oh, amazing. So it changed everybody's lives. But I really love Lightroom. So I usually start out right away in Lightroom, even if I'm going to Photoshop. So I'm just going to select this because this is a good kind of showing of what luminosity masking works best with, is if you have a very detailed, brighter sky, and then there's such a vast difference in exposure that you have to darken in the foreground. And yes, this works best when you bracket, but I'm going to show you how I do it with just one exposure, because we shoot in RAW nowadays. We have so much depth, dynamic range in one file that we can literally do this with just one image, as long as you properly expose it in the first place. So in this, I'm always exposing for the highlights. So this was the brightest point. So I actually exposed it for that. So the first thing I usually do is I just right click, bring up this menu, go into Photoshop. I'm going to edit it in Photoshop. And I don't do any changes in Lightroom to it because I'm usually going to be doing so much in here, and then I'll bring it back into Lightroom and finish it. So this is kind of the arduous task of actually creating luminosity masks. I'll tell you what, I'm going to only do a few because I just want to show you how to do it real fast, but there's actually an action. There's many actions out there. If you do a Google search for luminosity mask action, I think most landscapers have their own luminosity mask action. So, but I usually want to know how to create my own because I usually only use a couple of them. So I know how many to create just by looking at them and knowing I'm going to use that based upon what the picture needs. So, so that's kind of what I'm going to do here. So let me bring up so the first thing I usually do here to start creating my luminosity masks is bring up channels. And that's up here in this corner. And you can bring up that window by going into Windows and just making sure channels is checked. So then I click on the RGB channel right there, and then I hold down Command, and a little square and a finger will appear, and I'll just left click real quick onto that RGB layer. And as you can see, we have our marching ants starting right here. And so this is a pretty low dark image, so we're not going to get too much. So that's the first thing. So I'll hold down that, click on it once, get my marching ants, and then I'll go down here, which I will select. I'm going to save this selection as a channel. So then we'll have alpha 1, as you see right here. So what that did is it saved that luminance range. So when you click on the RGB, it creates a luminance range. And then I save it as a channel. So when we're talking about this, I really don't want you to get mixed up in the fact that we're calling these channels. This is actually just a mask. So hence the name luminosity mask. We just have to create them in the channels. So don't get hung up on the channels. It's actually, this is our first luminosity mask. So this is a certain range of highlights. So we're creating the highlight masks. So this is the kind of the broader range of highlights. So what you can do then is you click on the alpha, that channel you just created. So what we're going to do is going to refine them down so we have different selections that we can use later on when we're painting in what we need. So with this, you will actually make sure the alpha 1 channel, the channel you just created, is selected. And then you hold down Shift, Option, Command, and somebody's going to have to help me. I believe it's Shift, Alt, Control on PC, I believe. And then you click again on this channel. And see how it's flipped? So I'll go back and forth. See, there it is right there. And then that's the new one. So what it did is just refined it down to the brighter. So it's going broad highlights, brighter, brighter, brightest. So, and because it's such a dark image, we're just not going to have a lot of luminosity masks for this particular part of it. So then again, I'm going to go save that as a selection. So now I have even darker, and you can see them get darker. And what the coolest thing about this is so I'm clicking on these masks. So these are the actual masks. So anything in white is you can see. So anything ranging from gray, white to the grays to the blacks. So all the whites are like full on, you can see all the way through them. Anything the gray is muted, and then anything black does not come through. So it's just like masking, like white reveals, black conceals. It's the same concept. So what we're doing is just refining them. So even though we're only seeing the marching ants right there, we're actually getting all of this range. It's just very gradiated and really refined. So you're getting this really, really beautiful mask that's like perfect. So it's not like using the tool, the quick selection tool, because the quick selection tool does very hard edges sometimes and doesn't quite get everything. And this is a much more refined mask. So I'm just going to do 3 of each. So we're going to go one more time with the highlights because I wanted to refine it even more. So then I'm going to make sure that my second channel that I just created is selected. Then I'm going to do Shift Option Command, click on it once. It's going to give you this sometimes, but you're just going to hit OK. And you're going to then again save this little dot with the punched out of the square. And you're going to save that as a channel. So see how it's really refined it down to just the really, really bright highlights. So this is why it takes so long, because usually people make about 16 channels, which we're going to try and do this really fast. So these are my highlight channels. So these are the ones that I'm going to control all the highlights in the image. So now I'm going to make my shadow channels. So the way to do that is basically to select my alpha, to go in, back into my RGB, and then hold down Command, just Command, and hit. So this is giving me that original luminance mask, but now I'm going to invert it because I just want the shadow. So this is the highlights are selected now. So now I'm going to go to Select and then Inverse, or the shortcut is Shift Command I. So then I'm just going to inverse that. And then I'm going to do the same exact thing that I did, is I'm going to save it as a channel. And now I have my highlights, or my shadows, excuse me. So see how it's all selected. So white reveals, so anything in white is coming through and anything in black. So see how the black is in the highlights and the white. So now I have this great shadow channel mask that I can use to do my other stuff in. So now we're going to select that. Oops, there we go. And then I'm going to do 2 more channels real quick. So I'm going to hold down Shift Option Command or Shift Alt Control in PC, and it's going to refine it. And then I'm going to make my save selection again. And then I'm going to do the same thing, Shift Option Command. It's going to refine it even a little bit more. There we go. So see how basically what I'm going to try to get this, I'm going to do a few more shadow ones because I'm actually going to try to make it so none of the sky is shown. So I have this nice mask for just the foreground. So I'm just going to keep going on these until it gives me, I think I just duplicated that. Hold on, I got to move you guys out of the way so I can erase that. So there we go. There we go. Shift Alt. Give me another one. So there's my bait. We're getting closer. We'll do one more. And see how we're getting closer. I mean, it's kind of starting to show some stuff down in here, but I'm liking this. I'm just going to do one more. So see how I'm making them to basically knowing what I want in the picture. Like I want to have a nice mask down here so I can control some of the shadows and midtones down here and not affect the sky. So one of these 2 is probably the one I'm going to use, because those are pretty nice masks for that. So now I have my highlight channels, highlight masks, and my shadow masks all up in my channels up here. And now we're going to make a couple of mid-tone ones. Now this is a little more complicated than that. So what I'm going to do for the mid-tones, and you can do this as many times as you want, but this is how you make your initial one. And it's just basically the same thing, and I'll kind of go through it. So what you do for the midtones is you actually hit Command A or Control A in PC. So you're selecting everything, the entire image. Excuse me, I need to go back to the RGB. There we go. So I'm selecting the entire image. And then I'm going to my very first channel that I had, that I created with the highlights. And I'm going to actually do Option Command. And what's this doing is it's actually subtracting all the highlights from the selection. And then I'm going to go to my very first mask for the shadows. I'm going to do the same thing. And it'll say that, but you can just hit OK, you're fine. And then after I do that, so I did the Option Command, and I got that. I subtracted all the shadows basically from that and all the highlights, and now I'm going to make a save selection from that, and now I have all of my midtones. So that's all my midtones in the picture. So then what you do if you want to have another layer of midtones, you do that again, but you do it on the second layer that you did. So we did both 1 and 4, which were the initial ones that we did. So then we're going to do a couple more. So we're going to do select all. Got to remember to select everything. So Command A, and then we're going to go to our Alpha 2 channel, and then we're going to go Option Command, and we're going to get rid of all those highlights. And then we're going to go down to our Alpha 5 channel, which is the secondary one for the shadows. And we're going to go Option Command and hit that again. And then we're going to save as a selection for a channel. And that's our second midtones. So those are so we have middle midtones, and then we're kind of refining it. So we're getting more midtones in there. And you can go forever on this. Usually I make about 16 channels. And you'll see I'll kind of practically apply them in a second here. So that's about as far as I want to go for this. We could go forever, because the beautiful thing is actually, and now that I've done all that, and actually, you know what, we should probably, what do you think about taking some questions on that? Because that was an awful lot, awful fast. And what I'm going to do next is I'm actually going to show you how the action will do it in seconds. So, but do we have any questions or anything like that? Let me see. I have been pulling up the chat.
Erik, I guess, do you find a benefit, some way of creating your own versus using things like TK panels and I'm drawing a blank on the other one that Sean Bagshaw always uses.
Yeah. Like there's a guy, Chris McIntyre from England, that uses one too. Yeah. I use them usually, but I usually only use a couple channels. So I do have an action that just creates all luminosity masks. And that's really nice. But sometimes if I'm in a hurry and I know I'm doing something like this where I'm only going to need a mask for the sky and I'm only going to need a mask for this, I can make those so quickly, you know. But yes, I usually use this action to make all of them at once. But I feel like you should kind of know how they're made, just in case, you know, you need to make them all. You know, they're just nice to have, to know how to create it and know why they're being created. You know, you got to kind of know how the sausage is made, I guess. So
yeah, that makes sense. Yep. Thanks.
So, all right. So no other questions there. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to actually kill all these. Let me select them all. Come on. We're just going to kill them. So on the action is you really actually have to have this one selected, and actually, yep. So you got to make sure that this is selected, your background layer, and then just create all luminosity masks. It'll take a second here. Hopefully my computer, oh my God, you guys, seriously, that new update, they had an iOS update and Adobe update at the same time, and woo, my computer was going crazy. So see how it all made with one click. I made Light 1, Light 2, and they all look pretty similar to what I made too. So they just went a little further. So here's like everything is selected, and then so having an action like that will, it just creates them for you is so much easier, obviously. So here's all my midtones, and they're all labeled nicely and stuff like that. And there's like 100 actions out there to make them. But I just want to make sure you knew how to make them. It's really important. that you know those actions, just in case you need to make an extra one or refine it from one of these just to make a better tool for you. So how I go about using these practically is, and I already kind of screwed up. Whoops. I am actually, hold on, we're going to start over again because I forgot to bring this in as a smart object, and that's super important. So let me come back here. And how you do that in Lightroom is I'm right-clicking over the image, then I'm going to edit in, and I'm going to open it as a smart object in Photoshop. And you probably all know this, and I'm going to reiterate a lot of information, but the reason you open it as a smart object is because then you have full control over that image. You can open it back up into Adobe RAW just by double clicking on it. So here we are, this is my smart object. So all I have to do is double click on it and RAW panel will come up and I can make all kinds of adjustment to it anytime I want to. So that's why you bring it up in smart object. And the reason you do that is I gotta move you guys out of the way because all your faces are over here. Is because I really like, if I haven't bracketed and made multiple images already, the nice thing is I can just duplicate this, which is Command J, to duplicate this copy and copy the layer, and I usually do it 3 times. So then I have, and this is how I usually, this is my original or base or whatever you want to call it, and then I like to do a dark layer and a light layer. Oops, that did not get everything. And that's basically exactly what it says. So then I will go in and I can double click on that because it's a smart object, and I can make this my light layer. So I do this by eyeball. So like, what do I want to look, what do I want to paint in later? And so my light layer should be all my shadows. What's a good exposure for that? That's looking pretty good. It's starting to break apart a little bit. But that's looking pretty good. That's where I want it, because I know I'm going to paint in certain parts of this to bring them out later. So that's what I'm looking for. There's no formula for this. It's all eyeballing and knowing where you're going with the image. You have to pre-visualize this in order to know what you want to bring out later and know what you want to bring down a little bit. So I already have eyeballed this image and pre-visualize exactly what I want to do to it. And I'm going to show, I'll just show you real quick what I've already kind of, man, it is running slow. Yeah, the new, it might even crash because, man, I was having all kinds of problems earlier with Lightroom on the new update. And I did not practice this with the zoom on. So there it goes. Okay. Oh, look at that. Okay, cool. I love making mistakes in front of everybody. So I made a mistake. Let me reset and I'll show you what mistake I made. Come on, reset. There we go. Back to 0. Is because I want to make 3 layers, and what I did is I just duplicated them and I didn't create new smart objects of them, which is very easy to do. Man, it's going slow. Should have like little music breaks while we do this. There we go. So what I actually wanted to do is actually right click and do new smart object via copy, because when you duplicate them, they all are linked. So then anytime you change it, all 3 of them change. So what I want is I want 3 separate copies. So you have to do this. You have to do new smart object via copy. So then we're going to make 2 of those, and we're going to have 3 of them. Then I'm going to do dark, light. So yeah, we're not all infallible. We all make mistakes. And that's a good way of knowing how to correct it. So then we're going to make this into our light layer. There we go. That's why it was taking a little longer, is because I was trying to do all three of them. And then we're going to make a dark layer. So I'm going to come, I just double clicked on the layer and I'm just going to make it, I'm looking at the sky now. So I'm kind of like, I might make a few more exposure, just a little bit more different changes. Because I really want this right here to be have a little more dynamic range and more depth to it. So I always kind of play with the highlights. I'm always looking at my, there we go. So I'm not doing anything crazy. That's looking pretty good for right now. Cool, cool, cool. That's my dark layer. So then I got this awesome original. So this is where the original is going to be. Actually, the original is a little too bright, but we'll fix that. All right. So I am going to first start on my light layer, which is all my shadows in the foreground. And now we're going to use our action. So you want to turn off all the other layers and you want to make sure you have the original image selected to create the luminosity masks. Because if you have the light layer on, then it's going to create luminosity masks from that light layer, and they're going to be all messed up. They're going to be way too bright, and you're not going to have the full luminosity range. So you want to make sure that all these are turned off and originals on, and then you're going to hit your action. And so this is really control. This is like, I love these because you can just keep doing this over and over again. You can go select mask, put it on there, paint, and then you can actually go select another mask, put it on there, and paint over the top of the other mask. So I just really think it's a much more refined way of doing this. So here we go. We got all of our channels here. All right. So now what I'm going to look for is, let me take me back to the original image. Hold on. So I've already decided that I want to bring this down back into range, like a good range, to give it a little bit more pop, and maybe make some more highlights up in here, and maybe bring some highlights in here. And then I'm also, because you got to watch out, sometimes you make fantasy lands, but I do want to bring out a little bit of light on this peak and some of the side peaks, just to give it a little bit of like a depth to it, so you're being drawn to that peak. And I have to watch out because there's not actually supposed to be any light there. The light's behind the mountain, so I got to be really careful on that. But those are the aims that I'm going to do, the things that I'm going to try to do, and I want to know that because I have to go and pick the masks in order to do that. So I'm just going to go file through my masks, and I'm like, okay, this one, it's a little too, it might be a little, let's do this one first. So now I have the channel selected that I like, and I'm going to do my command click on it and see how it selected the marching ants are there, and it selected this luminance range. So now all I have to do is go down to light, or sorry, we're going to do dark. Make sure it's on, and then just make a mask to it, and we're actually going to fill that in. Hold on just a second. I want a full black mask. So you want a full black mask on there, and then you just click on it. And the cool thing is that, let's make sure that this is still on, is that this is just, I can paint all day long. So I'm going to select my brush tool, and I'm going to do it at 100%. It's at 20. I like to do it at 20, just slowly build up, but I just want to show you what it can do at 100%. So I'm just going to hide the marching ants. So that's just Command H to hide them or make them. And I can paint anywhere because it's only going to blend where that mask is. So I'm painting all over the place, and it's only doing it here. or in the range. Some of it's ranged up here. You saw it change a little bit, but that's the coolest thing about this is I can just go anywhere. So, so yeah, so that's bringing that in pretty nicely. I'm getting a little bit of, so that's cool. I like that. So, and the nice thing is I can just flip and be like, okay, you know what? I want to bring out some highlights up here. So then I'm going to turn on the highlight range. And then I'm going to make my black mask on that one. And then I'm going to go up and find my luminosity. I'm liking this one. So then I'm going to do my command click. So that range comes out. And then I'm just going to click on the mask, select the brush tool, so B. And I'm going to hide my marching ants. And then I'm just going to come in here and I'm just going to do it like really bright. So that's too bright. I'm doing 100%. See how it kind of goes crazy. But see, I'm like just painting everywhere. So hold on, let me. There we go. Whoops, one more. So now I'm just going to go down to my 20% opacity and I'm just going to paint where I want some highlights. So, you know, I just want some highlights in here and I want some highlights in here and maybe up here. You can be really kind of, I don't like that as much, but you can be, let's see how it's not painting on this dark. So, which is cool. I'm being a little sloppy. Some of it's getting a little bit out there, but see how you can just be like really painterly about where you want your highlights, where you want your midtones and stuff like that. So, all right, let's switch over. So now what I can do is I've already done a little bit of masking here, but I actually want to flip over to the shadows. So easily done. I'm going to go find my mask that works the best for the shadows. So light, remember white reveals, black conceals. So we're looking for one that kind of gives me some good, let's try that one. So then I'm going to do my command click on the channeled mask. And I'm going to go down to my light and I'm going to do a hide, a brush. Let's do 100 because then you can kind of see it. Oops, hold on. I got to make sure I'm on my right. Nope, we're on the wrong one. Hold on. My brush is on the wrong. See how it's on black and not white? So I switched it to white to reveal the underneath layer. So we're revealing the light layer. But see how I'm painting all over the clouds and nothing's changing. It's only on this. So that's why, so this is nice because I can just be crazy and go nuts on this. I'm going to destroy that. Because remember what I said is I actually just wanted it's got to look real. It's got to look somewhat real. So let's make sure I didn't go too far. Good, okay. All right, go back to our channel. So now I'm just gonna go in, I got maybe 40%. I'm just gonna get in here, change my brush size, and just kind of paint in some of the highlights. So I'm just trying to stay on the sides that I think light would be hitting. You know, if it was reflecting off of something, getting some detail in there. And then I just want a little hit right there because that's cool. I like that. I mean, this is artist choice right now. So that might be a little bit too much, but looking a little fakey. But then if you want to get rid of stuff that you did too much, you just hit X and that'll flip your brush back over to black. So now we're going to conceal. And see how I can just come in and tone it down. And I don't have to be too precise because I got this awesome mask up here. And the other nice thing is it's like really, really nice, like edges. Like the edging is just really, you don't get that haloing at the edges. I mean, I'm just like mashing on this button and nothing's happening at the edges. So that's the other nice thing about Luminosity Masks. If you do a hard selection with the select tool, the magic select tool, sometimes you get really harsh, edgy edges, and then you got to go refine the selection, and then you got to go. You just have to. This is an easier tool for me. There's many ways to this, but this is an easier tool. Man, that, and of course, there's a sensor spot in there. It's going to drive me nuts. So yeah, so there we go. I mean, this is awesome. The other nice thing is then I can just be like, you can do huge sweeping changes if you want to, because what you can do is you can actually select one of these masks. Like let's do the shadow one. So I can select this mask. I can do my command click to have the selection done. And then I can actually go and do a curves adjustment layer. And all it's going to do is adjust that mask. Pretty cool. So like we can make huge adjustments to everything in there globally to make big old adjustments. So, and then if we wanted to, the other nice thing is I can actually just duplicate this layer and then invert the mask. And now I can mess with the sky in a global idea. So, well, it's not doing that great. It really needs to block out, and that's easily done too, because all I have to do is select the mask, hit my brush, make sure I'm on black, and then I can just come in here and paint away. It's going very slow. So, does that make sense to everybody? That's the Photoshop way of doing this. So you can be you can just keep going and going. Like if you want to get like all the cracks in like you want to bring out the shadows or the highlights in this tree down here, you have a mask. So like remember, the white reveals, black conceals. So it's like, okay, if I want to bring out all those shadows in that tree, I can just select this mask. And then I can go into the light part and then hide this out. I can just do 100% and I can come in here and start painting out that. Oops, I think I got it on black. Boop, boop, boop. There we go. You just start painting out the shadows. It's very slow, so you can start seeing it. It's very subtle. But it's just a subtler way of doing some of this stuff. So not that I would ever want to do that, but I'm just kind of showing you what they can do. All right, cool. So that's a way of playing with luminosity masks in Photoshop. So I'm just going to keep this here because I want to show you how I can do the same thing in Lightroom. So now I'm in the grid in Lightroom, and I'm just selecting my image. I'm hitting the D to go to the panel here. We're going to reset this because it looks like I've been doing some work on it. All right, there we go. Make sure, and that's going to drive me nuts. So we're going to get rid of it because it's right in the middle of the. There's one over here, and there's one right here. All right, cool. So the way I do it in here is I like to make this pretty small. I don't know, did you guys, the new upgrade, so cool. If you are in the develop panel, you can actually hold down command and now zoom like that, which is awesome. Didn't used to be able to do that. You only could do like a certain amount. So you hold down command, and it only works in the develop panel, but you can actually, so I'm hitting the space bar to come back out, but I'm holding the command key and I just like can say zoom there, and that's an amazing thing. But then also they added the awesome Photoshop. So if you hold down shift, you can do a live zoom, and you can do like just, and it's just shift and then going back and forth while clicking. It's really cool. So the new upgrade, man, that saved my life. I love that. So that's an amazing tool. All right, so the way I do it is I make it a little small, and then I use a gradient. I start out with just a rectangular gradient, and I actually make it really, really nice and tight like that, because actually, so I'm hitting O to bring up the mask. So on Lightroom, red is the mask. So see how all the pixels are covered? Like everything's covered. So, which is what I want. So because I'm going to be working with luminance values. So I'm going to zero that. So this is all zeroed out. We'll zero that out. So there we go. And then you just come down here to range mask. Can everybody see that? Hopefully I can. There it goes. Range mask. And you hit luminance. So then you get this little lovely little thing here. I like having the mask on so I can see it, and so I have O selected. You can also click this to do luminance mask. I actually like watching the actual mask being created, so that's why I have O on. You can do either. So what you can do here is I want to mask off the sky. So I want to just select the sky. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually tell it the range is I want to get rid of all these dark parts. So I'm just grabbing it from the left side, which is all the darks, and heading towards the lights. So when it's not red, it's not masked, so you can't do anything to it. So in Lightroom, if it's black, you're not doing anything to it. So on this one, I got to keep a little bit, see how there's still some highlights in there. So you just got to kind of keep some of it. But then you can use the smoothing tool to like refine it a little bit. So smoothness down here just kind of refines it a little bit more. And you just kind of play with the two until you get something pretty decent. What you can also do is, let me go back, is actually use the brush and erase, and you can come in and just erase the stuff you don't want. But you got to watch your edges because you don't want to lose your edges. Because that's the whole point of doing a luminance mask, is having it. So this works really nicely. You just don't want to change anything else in here. You can do edges, but I just like kind of doing that. So now I'll hit O, and what we should have is a mask that is only really doing the high value luminance. And then you can kind of use your sliders to decide what you want to do with it. So, a little pop, and give it a little bit of, I mean, you can use all the sliders. You can really make them have the clarity, bring that down so the range is so, but the nice thing is actually I've made a luminance mask inside Lightroom by just using a gradient and then the range mask. And then the nice thing also is it's live, so I can actually kind of change the smoothness or change the range that it's working with and see where we're at. So you can always erase it off there too, which is nice. So now to do it the other direction, like we were in Photoshop, I just come in and I duplicate. I kind of shove it over so I know where it is, but I'm just making a new mask. So I just have to, I'm gonna basically just deselect all this stuff because I don't want, turn it off. And then I'm gonna do this, I just zero out everything. And you can just make a new one, but I like zeroing out, so there we go. I forgot where my full-on zero out is. It shift? I think it is. All right, there we go. Oh, and I did one of these too. Let's just make a new one. Hey, mistake number one. It's easier just to make a new one because, hold on, I think I got rid of it. I went too far. Oh, no, it's still there. Okay, there she is. There she is. All right, so now we're just going to make a new one. Same thing, nice tight one, so all those pixels are selected. And then we're going to go to range mask. I'm going to make sure all this is zeroed out nicely. Range mask, luminance. And this time, remember we went from the left to the right. This time we're going to go right to left. So what we're doing is blocking off the sky. So we're watching until that red is pretty much off of the sky, and then you can kind of come in and deal with the, you know, the smoothness a little. And what I want, I still want enough in, I want it like that. So what I can do is just kind of do the smooth a little bit, which is going to mess with the edges a little bit. But this is where I can come in with the brush and erase some stuff off the sky. See how it's in the blue, and you can just get rid of all of it off the sky up here. So you can just get rid of it, anything that you don't want, just quickly. And then I will hit O to get rid of the orange, showing the mask. And now I have this wonderful way of just dealing with down here. So that's the easy way of doing it. I like to play. So what you can also do is use a circular mask. So I'm going to make a circular mask because remember, in the Photoshop one, I'm going to flip over to Photoshop, we just had this like little globe of light in here, and not everything was affected. So to replicate that, what I'm going to do is, here we are, I'm just making a spherical mask. I'm going to hit O so you can see it. So that's what the mask looks like right now. And then you're going to go to luminance, range mask and luminance, and you're going to do the same thing and see how it's only staying on. And then I'm going to kind of mess with the smoothness. So it's only staying on. See, I'm going to go in and erase it again. So I'm brush, erase, and then I'm just going to get rid of some of it up here. But what it is, the mask is only on the shadows right now. That's awesome. So I just made a luminance mask with a spherical one too. So now I can actually just go in and do the same thing, and look at how it almost looks exactly like our Photoshop one. I think it needs a little contrast. Maybe some highlights. So see, I got a nice little tube of light coming down to take you to that peak. This is where I want you to go. So there we go. So we'll go full. That's what the Lightroom one looks like, and that's what the Photoshop one looks like. So the Lightroom one's a little brighter, but hey. So you can back off on it. So I'll just select the spherical one, come find my pin, and just back off because it seems to be a little too much. Looks a little fake. There we go. Ta-da! Oops, where did we go? There we go. So this has many practical applications. You can actually also do use the range mask you saw with color too. So like, oops, sorry, it's being very slow. Hold on, it's going to catch up here pretty soon. So I could go in and be like, where's my? Remember, I had my mask for the sky. I still have that up here. So I actually can go in and change it to a color mask and just deal with the color just in the sky. I actually could do that with the actual original mask too. So like this is all mask, so I can just come in and do just sky, you know, really make it just an odd sky. And then also, you know, hey, color theory. So let's warm up these There we go, warm them up. I'm doing these crazy colors just so you can see them because it's a little subtle otherwise. But yeah, so you can make, you know, this would be a cool, like cyan or something like that, or even go into a, right in there, because we still want some whites, but yeah, so, and then go back in here and make this a little more yellow or red. I mean, you can even change the full color of it if you wanted to, but let's see how you got like nice contrasting colors now, and I can bring this up if I needed to and make that. So you can play with not only the luminance, but you can also play with the color too. And it's very controlled. So it's very, very spot. You can do any mask you want on anything. You can actually do this on portraits too. So think about that. You can just put a mask over somebody's face and deal only with the highlights and then deal only with the shadows. So you can just deal with the luminances and that's it, and really shape the light on the portrait on their face. So it's pretty powerful. So, all right, I zipped through that. Wow, that was fast. Holy moly. I thought that was going to take way longer. All right, do we have any questions? Because that was a whole lot. Please have any questions. I'm going to stop the share. Or actually, I can come back to it, but do we have any questions? Oh, it looks like a lot of talking was going on while I was talking.
Erik, I have a question on your Photoshop, on your actions to create the luminosity masks. I have not built actions like that. How do you go about creating an action that will just run through and create all those? Is that too involved to answer here?
No, it's actually pretty easy, but it's involved. So you would have to go and do everything that I did, but you have to record it as an action. Do you know what I mean? So you'd record one thing after another. And then also the one thing I did was I changed the names of all the layers. So you also have to go do that.
Okay.
Also. So it's arduous. That's why I would really suggest of going and finding somebody that's already done the work. There's so many different actions out there, like and they're mostly just create all luminosity, and they do all the same thing. You saw what I did. That's what they do. There's no secret formula. So.
Looks like Marianne has asked, in Photoshop, why was curves in the channel panel?
Let me go back and look. Did it pop up when I did? So when I wanted to do I selected one of these, and I did the command click on it to create them.
Again.
What was that? Sorry.
Could you share your again?
Sorry. I'm just going away. All right. Let me see here. Share. All right. Can you see that? Thumbs up. Good to go.
Yes.
Okay. So I think what happened is, because it's not up here right now, and what happened is I selected this, and then I went down and did an adjustment layer mask. And then that created it as a channel too, I believe. Sometimes it does. Yep, there it goes. See how it makes it a channel? I'm not really sure why it does that, but it basically what I'm doing is I'm telling it to select this, and then it makes another mask basically from that selection when I make it an adjustment layer. So, because it has to be specific to this adjustment layer. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. Because as soon as I get rid of it, it'll probably disappear. Yep. So, but yeah, so you can paint on that mask, but it destroys it pretty. See how I don't have the control? Like it paints everything. And when I'm doing the other ones, I can paint all over the place, and it'll only affect where the mask is. So that's the difference between the two.
Thanks.
Yep. It's a global. It's like Lightroom. An adjustment layer is a global thing, while the mask is a much more refined kind of scalpel-like instrument. So cool. So how many people are just like?
I think you mentioned, I forget what his name is, I can never remember it, that made Raya Pro. Is that what that is? A bunch of actions? The Scottish guy you mentioned.
Oh, McIntyre? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yes, he has that panel. Yes. Yes. Yep. I just don't like the action that I used was free. But the panel that he has, yes, it's much more proactive. Like you can select, do a light 3 and a light 1. You can do very, like as you can see, his like if I had his panel and I knew that all I needed was like to cut out the am I sharing? I'm not sharing, am I? If all I needed to do was cut out the sky, then I could have, on his panel, I would just say do a dark 5 and then a light 1, because that's basically the sky and the foreground. So that's the only difference, is that it's much more like controllable, but it costs money. So you have to pay for those panels. So, well, this action is completely free. Sorry, Nancy, I didn't hear you. You were muted.
I have it, but I've been afraid to try to use it.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a lot of buttons on it, and it's like this. I'm the same way. I want it easy, and this is just easier to me in my head. So whatever works in your process is the thing to use. So that panel is really powerful. It just takes a lot of time to sit down and like learn what every single button does. So. All right. I don't see any. Oh, okay. This is a good question from Dan. When do you use this technique instead of HDR? I use this technique all the time because I want more control. When you're doing an HDR like merge, you don't get, sometimes you get like really muted highlights and sometimes really muddy shadows. And I just like doing this because I have way more control and I can refine it the way I want to. Sometimes an HDR merge is it's everything. It's all encompassing. I don't necessarily want greens and blues, and that's sometimes HDR just goes too far. And I really can control this a lot more. And I think it's much more refined, and it doesn't have that. I mean, that picture doesn't look HDR'd, but I actually did control a very large dynamic range in the photograph. It's just I did it in a tiny paintbrush part or a little tiny mask of it and stuff like that. So that's the difference. It's just a little bit more of a control, and I think it doesn't give you, and we hear that all the time, the HDR look. You can control it. You're getting that control for the dynamic range, but you're not getting the HDR look. You're getting the look that you want, a natural look. So let me see here. Oh yeah, you can get the free TK Actions panel. That's cool. Yeah, so you can. It's just pared down. It's a little less, but it probably just does the same thing that does, and you can control it a little bit. I think, like you can tell it.
Does, on his, it'll do your basics like you were showing, from a lights 1 to the midtones to a dark, that whole range.
Yeah.
And then you can do some refinement on the output. You know, if you want to, like you were showing, go to a curves layer, a levels, things like that.
Yeah, and it's just one button push. So instead of having to come all the way down here, do this click. Sorry, I'm not sharing, but going down to the adjustments layer, doing that click, and then going up and clicking. It's just his panel lets you do it in one touch, which is nice. So.
And I'll put a YouTube link, but there's a gentleman named Sean Bagshaw. He does a lot of free YouTube on some of these TK action panels. So yeah. Tony Kuiper does have tutorials on here, but if you go to Sean Bagshaw's YouTube channel, he does a lot of this as well.
Yeah, and it's just finding that one person that really speaks to you and how they teach. I mean, that's the big thing. Is like I watch tutorials just like everybody else, and man, I'll go to one and I won't understand a thing that the person's saying, and then I'll go to another guy that I really like, and I understand just the way he speaks. So yeah, there's a lot of great tutorials, but yeah, I like him a lot, and I really love Kelby. I think Kelby does a good job. So he just speaks in a certain language that I understand. So cool.
Any other questions from anyone?
I was just going to ask, it seems like you have your process pretty streamlined. How long did it take you to kind of get the idea of where you want to end up with doing luminance masks?
It's always practical. I think a problem comes up, and I'm like, okay, the way I'm doing it now, I can't do it.
Yeah.
So I have to find another practical way. So then you just kind of go like, okay, what does this tool do? Oh, wait, that works really well. And it was just a refinement. And all of a sudden, like I was doing like dodging and burning. Like that's what I was doing. But then somebody's like, oh, I know this. Luminosity Masks started being talked about. And then I just find it from there. And the next tool came along, Dominic, was Lightroom and the range mask. That changed everything. Like that was just amazing, because now I don't have to go in and build all these layers and everything. You know what I mean? It's like there's certain pictures that I need to do in Photoshop that need this much control for the luminosity masking, and then there's other pictures, and especially the way I shoot now. It's like I know I'm going to use it in Lightroom, so I know I can do the range mask in Lightroom. So it's really the workflow starts from the second you are standing in front of the picture before you even touch the button. You're like, how am I going to finish this photograph? And that's where it all starts. And then that's where the workflow comes from. It's like, okay, I know I'm going to shoot it this way because I'm going to do this in Lightroom, and that's where the end product is going to happen. So does that help? That's like,
Yeah, that does help. Yeah.
Yeah, I always thought there was like, oh, I'll just take the photograph and then I'll fix it in Photoshop or Lightroom. And it's like, man, the second I changed my whole concept of like pre-visualize, why am I taking this photo? Why would anybody be interested in looking at this photo, and shooting that, knowing that I'm going to emphasize this part and this part and this part, and like really merge these two parts. It's like that pre-visualization makes all the difference, because then I'm not kind of flailing about at the end trying to figure out what I want to do with the photograph. So it's like I already knew what I wanted to do when I pressed that button. So
Okay, thank you.
yep.
It seems like you shoot bracketed for some of the shots you were doing. Would you use the bracketed photos, or do you always just take the central one and then create a light and dark?
No, yep. I usually use bracketed photos. They do have a little bit more, I think, range in them, though. It's to the naked eye, to the layman, nobody's ever going to notice the difference. So I would have a light bracket and a dark bracket, and then the mid-tone bracket basically is the base one that I would work on. So I just wanted to show you that it is possible to do with just one, as long as you shoot it properly beforehand. Like you have to shoot the highlights, but still have enough range in the shadows to actually pull anything out. What would have happened, Terry, with bracketed ones is I would have had probably a lot more detail in that foreground in the shadows, because I actually shot better midtones. Like you saw it kind of starting to pixelate a little bit in the shadows. So if I bracketed it, it would be much better quality. So, but yeah, it is possible to do it with one image. That's the big thing. And when I'm traveling, you guys, last thing I want to do is have a tripod. So Oh yeah, I think was that C. Vandenberg. I don't know your Vandenberg. I think that was a new thing. Like, yeah, they just released in Photoshop, I think, range masks. Well, they do have range masks. Like I said, there's a million ways of doing this. So, but also they did a sky replacement thing. But I think they did some range masking too. But yeah, there's like 3 different ways to do this particular thing. But I like this one because the masks are really, really nicely refined at the edges. They're so smooth at the edges to me. So that's why I do it this way. There is a select range kind of way of doing it, but I feel like they're harder edges. So, but that's just personal preference. I think that's it.
Laura asks, do you have some example before and after photos that you could show
Yeah.
that you processed?
Yep. Let me find. I know I have one off the top of my head, but man, let me find it. And this is another one that this is a single, I knew what I had to do with it. It was a single image. Oh, I have 2. Hold on. Let me pull them up. All right, that one. And that one. Where'd that other one go? It's like looking at my whole life, just scrolling by. Where'd it go? All right, I'll just pull up these 2. Oh, there it is. Okay. Let me share. There we go. So these are all, so this one down here at the bottom is a single picture. Like that was a single image, and I just pulled out all the luminance, did different range masks, because this was really, that sun was super like bright. So I knew I had to get as much range out of this as I possibly could, because this was deep in shadow. And then I did some color toning to it, color grading and stuff like that, but I brought all those details out. And this is basically was a black image. Sorry, I am not on it. What am I doing? There we go. I wonder if I have. Capture, hold on. So it was like this. So these are the original photos. So they're super black. So that's kind of where I started. So, man, I'll just warn everybody, we're going through my archive. Be prepared. There might be some nudie butts in here that I'm. Let me see. I don't know if I can go back. Can I go back? Yes. There we go. And then this one was much more of the bracketed stuff, because this was deep in shadow and this was pretty bright. So I just knew I had to bracket it. And same with this. This was a bracket. And then I just blended it with Luminosity Masks to bring all this together. So there's a lot of mid-tone work in this one. And I don't think I have the original ones, these around, just offhand, because they were brackets, so they're like 3 or 4 different images. So it would be hard to show you before and after. But yeah, so I hope that gives you an idea of the power of this, of how much range you can get in your pictures.
You bracketed that moving boat?
I did, and I basically did a mask right through here and just composited, like painted this, the one that I wanted to use back in. Does that make sense? Yeah. And then I painted this up here so I had the best fog. And I know purists come after me. I know I'm a journalist, so this kills me too, but like I'd love to get it in one image, but just to get all this range and this depth to it, that's what I did.
Are all of these for sale that you're doing?
Yes. I'm going to be putting up a gallery here for Christmas here pretty soon. Things are going a little slow around here because there's a 4-month-old in the house. So in between diaper changes, I'm trying to get that all set. So I should have it out around Thanksgiving. So I'll have a gallery of images that are for sale.
And will that be from your home website?
Yeah, I will put a link to it on my website. And I'll also put it on my Facebook page too. And I'll probably promo on my Instagram, truthfully, also. So
You do this full time?
I am a full-time photographer, yes. Yep. Everything's slowing down a little bit with the little one, but I love travel photography, but I actually get paid. And this is going to be like such a letdown because this is what I get paid for, and it's really boring. Headshots. There we go. There you go. That's what I get paid the big bucks for right there. Oh, we're not sharing, are we? Hold on. Oh, we are sharing. Yes, we are. Okay. But yeah, so I get headshot galore. Yeah, this is what, and I'll tell you, I make a ton of money off of headshots, and it pays for all my trips to like arches and stuff like that. So.
Wow.
Interesting. And that brings up a question, Eric. I had asked people about some topical matters for our 2021, and you doing headshots and stuff. They had mentioned something I was unfamiliar with. They called it frequency separation.
Yes.
The portrait. Is that similar to luminosity masks?
No.
Oh, okay.
I don't, truthfully, I learned it, and like it's like a little math problem. It's really hard to explain, truthfully, but somebody showed it to me, and I don't really know how it works. I just know how to make it work. But basically, it's doing a tonal separation and I'm going to lose my words. Like a pattern almost separation. So what it does is that you get smooth skin, but it doesn't lose the pores in the skin. So you still look like the skin has pores. Actually, I do it all the time. I absolutely love it. Let me pull up one. I think I might even have a before and after. Let me do a recent one because that would be... Because I get better and better at it every single time I do it. So I don't know if I did Travis. No, I didn't do Travis too much. This was for a Swedish tech company. That was... I think I did Lisa pretty good. No, I didn't. All right. These aren't drastic, but it'll give you an idea. So I'm going to zoom pretty big on her face. So this is straight out of camera, and then that's frequency separation. So see how it kind of evened out her skin tone just a little bit? I didn't do it drastically to her, but like even this is not as red, and it's like evening out these skin tones, and I'm getting rid of a little bit of the wrinkles and stuff. Oops, hold on. We're going all over the place. So this is before, and if you look right here, and after. So I'm getting rid of some of the glare, but I'm not smoothing it. She still has pores. So that's the biggest thing about frequency separation is I can actually go in and get rid of the glare and all that without smoothing it or declarifying it or doing any of that stuff. So I'm actually still keeping all the clarity and all the skin pores and everything. I'm just evening out the underlying like color, separation to it. So
Okay. Sounds like I need to contact you for a program next year for portrait photography.
Yeah, that's lighting and all that stuff is awesome. I absolutely love it here. No, see, it's like you can't really. Those are the outputs. Hold on. Oh, this gentleman had some great. This gentleman had a good. There we go. This is good because he had glare in his foot. So this is, let it catch up. It's starting to lag a little for me. Come on, catch up. But yeah, see how I can go in and I can brighten up the cheeks. See how you just get rid of some of the glare, I don't, like there was something there, but now it's gone but it doesn't look like he's just smoothed out or edited. Like, I don't know how else to say it. It's actually his skin. I'm using the separation to bring texture back up here. That's his actual skin, like his actual skin. So it's a pretty cool technique, and it's so hard to explain. So
It's actually a portrait program.
what was that?
Is this actually a portrait program that's available?
No, it's a Photoshop technique using about 3 different layers. So
What's it called again?
it's called frequency separation. And what it does is it makes a high frequency and a low frequency. And one of them you use for smoothing out skin blemishes and color blemishes, like where the skin kind of changes color. And then the low frequency is like for getting like blemishes out of there, but not smoothing it. You're actually using pieces of texture from the rest of the face to smooth over the blemish.
It's pretty neat.
Yeah, it's
Cool.
yeah, it's really, really cool. So
Yeah. I'll definitely follow up with you on email, Eric.
Yeah, it just looks real to me. So like he just looks better. I got rid of a bunch of bumps and unevenness, and it just looks better. So cool.
Well, thank you very much. I know you have to feed a 4-month-old.
Yes.
Don't want to keep you too much later. Come to 10 o'clock there in Michigan.
Yep.
Yeah, I thank you for this. This was good because Dave Hull and I were talking earlier. I'm trying to get over that. Somewhat, luminosity masks at first have this mystique or this somewhat of a fear to them.
Yeah.
But you just got to dive in. So I think this helped a lot in kind of seeing, as you said, see how the sauce is made.
Yeah. Yep.
And then when you're using programs that are out there, you understand it more and how to work with them. So I appreciate this.
Yeah. I mean, that's all. You guys, I dive in with both feet and I make a bunch of mistakes, and that's how I learn all this stuff. So it's like, yeah, and it's all practical application. You come into, like, if you're shooting a lot of sunsets and you want those foregrounds to come out and the HDR isn't doing it for you, practice this, check it out, see if it works for you, because it's just going to be a different tool in your tool bag. So
cool.
Well, Eric, background. Is that a video that you're playing?
Yeah. Yep.
Is it Lake Michigan?
No, this is just, you can actually get like free clips. So like I got all kinds of them. I got space in one of them, and yeah, so.
I mean, that's just on a computer. It's not actually a background.
No. You want to see what's really here? Hold on. Oh, I'm not downstairs, so it's not quite as jarring, but like, yeah, it's because there's a bunch of construction going on. So here I am. I'm in my little tiny bedroom. So much less exciting.
Quite an improvement.
So.
Well, thanks, Eric. And Dave, who is recording, and he'll do some editing. Once we have the final video, we'll send you a copy as well. So
that'd be fantastic. Yeah, awesome.
Do what you want with it. And yeah, we'll send everyone here a link to your website, and
yep.
I'll pick up your Facebook and Instagram, and people can follow you. And once you get your gallery rolling,
yep.
And I'll follow up with you, if you're interested about next year on something on portraits.
Yeah, and then I'll plug a little bit here. I don't know, some of you may know me. We do CritCon, which is Critique for Confidence. We used to do it in Denver, See Like a Photographer. Frederick Martinez, I think that's how you say his name, took the Denver one over. I still do my critique. We're having one on Saturday the 21st. It's on, the link is on Meetup. I will put it in the chat. But what it is, it's a live critique, and I only critique from the standpoint of the intention of the photographer. We've gotten a lot of really good response out of doing it that way, because it's not me coming in and being like, you need to do it my way. It's more like, okay, what were you trying to attempt? Let's try to improve from there. Or you nailed this, but you didn't quite do that. So it's a different way of critiquing. And I'm going to try to do it every Thursday at 6:30 my time. So during quarantine, that shouldn't be that hard to hit. But I put the link in the to that group in the chat. So, but yeah, if you want to join us, it's an awesome critique group. So
Cool. Thank you very much.
Yep.
Maybe we'll see it in Grand Rapids sometime.
Yeah. Come say hi.
If you make it back to Denver, give us a shout. Let us know.
Oh yeah, for sure. I'll be back there. I got like 4 or 5 weddings next year, so I'll be back. So
cool.
Yeah.
Good deal. Well, thanks again. Really enjoyed this. Cool. Have a great rest of your evening.
Great. Thank you.
We'll be in touch soon.
All right. Take care, everybody.
All right. Thanks, Erik.
Thanks.
Thank you, Erik.
Yep.
Bye.